Welcome back. So, former Deputy President David Mabuza's daughter, Tamara Silinda, has gone to the Mpumalanga High Court. This is to block the distribution of her late father's 44 million rand pension fund. Silinda, who says her parents were married under customary law, is challenging the legality of a posthumous marriage certificate presented by Mabuza's wife, Nonhlanhla Patience Mnisi. Now, Silinda also wants Alexander Forbes prevented from transferring the entire pension to Mnisi, who was named sole beneficiary until the rightful dependents are determined. Now, for more on this and other related cases, perhaps some lessons that some of us could learn as well, we are joined in studio by fiduciary specialist Ms. Zola Mbata. Welcome back.
Hey.
Thank you so much for having us. I think the last time you were in studio with us, so you opened very many eyes, and I think it a difficult conversation, but incredibly important. Isn't just as soon as you saw this issue with the former deputy president, who is now late, of course, and you've got two wives essentially, and then there's a daughter who says she wants to prevent another family from accessing much of her father's estate. Initial thoughts? We've seen this thing happen before.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But firstly, I'm so happy to be back here with you, Naledi.
Glad to have you.
I love it. Every time I would always be here.
Thank you.
It's so amazing.
You're welcome.
So yeah, look, when I first read the articles, there's quite a lot of them.
Yeah.
I was also just, but the first thought that came to my mind was, people will assume that by virtue of David Mabuza being whatever position he has held, either executive or parliamentary, that he would know. That's what people would assume. But, I found in my experience in the corporate space, how many executives I had to teach about the Administration of Estates Act and the things that we assume they know because they are senior managers. So we can't, when it comes to estate planning and deceased estate administration, assume that people know just because they hold senior positions. This is a specialized field. Now, with that being said, the set of facts in this matter, from my summary, are as follows. There is two women that are affiliated and connected to David Mabuza by virtue of Lobola, right? That then triggers the Recognition of Customary Marriages Act. Now, in South Africa, a customary marriage was legally recognized after 1998. Okay? Upon the Recognition of Customary Marriages Act, it stated the following. Whatever customary marriage, in other words, whatever customs that have been met in order to formulate this marriage prior to 1998 can be recognized.
Okay.
During 98 and moving forward, they can be recognized. Thereafter, they have amended that act. And they amended it predominantly because of the polygamous nature of it. Okay? Now, when it comes to Didi Mabuza and these two women, Tamara, from the name of the daughter.
Yes.
Tamara's mother was, David Mabuza paid Lobola, according to the set of facts in the article and that she has placed in court.
Yes.
Her mother, Lobola was paid for her mother in 1999. Okay? And then Tamara was born in 2000.
Okay.
Now, according again, and this is the thing about the Recognition of Customary Marriages Act, Naledi, I feel like it was rushed. I feel like it's almost the same as the Bella Act. You rush to put the act out, but you still want to fix it.
Yeah.
It does not have a part of it that states how you can regulate your customary marriage. In other words, there isn't a section in the Recognition of Customary Marriages Act that speaks to antenuptial contracts in or out of committal property with accrual. None of it is there. So therefore, in terms of practice, this is what's being done.
Yeah.
You are required to borrow from the Civil Act, from the Civil Marriage Act, in order to regulate your marriage, in order to do an antenuptial contract, whether your marriage is out of committal property, in committal property or out of committal property with accrual. You can't get it from the Recognition of Customary Marriages Act. You have to go borrow from the Civil Marriage Act. Now, in the same token, and this is what's going to blow your mind.
Okay.
In order to end a customary marriage, you can't use the Recognition of Customary Marriage. You have to go borrow from the Divorce Act, which means, legally speaking, today in South Africa, in order to end a customary marriage, you have to divorce. And so Tamara is saying, my mother was never divorced. So my mother is still married to my father. And she's not lying. There's a case, Naledi, that was issued, I think it was beginning of the year, June or May, where it was stated that a woman who had her Lobola paid 45 years ago, and then the man broke up with her and subsequently married another woman, in terms of the civil marriage Act.
Yes.
And got a marriage certificate of Home Affairs. That marriage was declared null and void because he didn't divorce the one he paid lobola for 45 years ago. And that wife is who got the estate that he built with the new civil wife. And so this is what Mnisi is facing today.
Sure.
Because Tamara's mother was not divorced, in the absence of a divorce order, technically she's still married to David Mabuza. Then the question then becomes, okay, but since he paid lobola for Tamara's mother and he paid lobola for Mnisi, does this mean David Mabuza passed away in a polygamous marriage?
But that's what it sounds like, because from a customary point of view, if you were to look at it at face value, one would say, yes, that's Unjunkulu and the second wife, for instance.
Yes. Right? Now, the High Court of Johannesburg recently issued a judgment where the first wife took the husband and the second wife that he paid lobola for to go have it declared invalid or nullified due to the fact that she didn't give consent to her man paying lobola for the second wife.
Right.
And the judgment states as follows. Because he didn't even discuss the matter with his first wife, let alone get her consent, it shows that in the spirit of marriage, he was intentionally avoiding to follow process. Therefore, this marriage cannot be recognized. He has failed to live within the spirit of marriage, because that's what happens when your act is missing some parts.
Right.
It's ambiguous, therefore it needs to be interpreted through court orders, and they borrow from the spirit that the Constitution gives us, which is the principle of fairness.
Sure.
And according to the principle of fairness, you can't, as a woman, be married customarily to a man, sitting busy growing an estate, meanwhile he's paying lobola for another one who's coming for your estate. So therefore that second marriage was not recognized. So if we were to apply the Johannesburg High Court order, it's very dangerous to say Mnisi therefore has an invalid certificate, the one she got after David Mabuza passed away.
Oh my gosh, I'm almost, I must tell you, I'm genuinely a little bit overwhelmed, because
it is overwhelming.
If you think about how many people are watching and, you know, just what may or may not be information that's available to you as a partner in a marriage, the consequences are huge. Now, let's go back to when you say that a customary marriage, because it is recognized in 1998, needs to borrow from the Civil Marriage Act and
regulate it.
To regulate it, right? So we need to make sure of that.
Okay.
Does that mean that now when we're talking about the splitting of assets, that now we're talking about a marriage that is essentially, from a default point of view, in community of
100%.
property? So if in the case of the woman who was paid lobola for 45 years ago, right, if it is a she that passes away, even though she hasn't seen that man in, let's say, 25 years, he has a right to her estate.
100%. It's not just the man's estate that this recognition of customary marriages gives us access to. The other day I was speaking at Charlotte Maklege, you know, to health professionals, particularly to nurses. And I was just saying to them, I'm very unhappy with the reputation that nurses have, that they give away their estates when they fall in love. Men are literally targeting them, marrying them, because they have a pension, they have a salary, they have a car, they have a house. And they paying lobola for them. And as soon as they finish meeting the 3 requirements, which is being over the age of 18, consenting to a customary marriage, and celebrating and negotiating that marriage according to that man's customs, then they are immediately married in communal property. When that man leaves your house or your family's home, he is married to you in communal property, is entitled to your house. And that's what happens to women now.
Sure.
So this answers your question. Is it the same when it comes to a man as well? And it 100% is. A marriage in communal property has consequences, whether it's the wife or the husband.
So let's go back to the case of the late former deputy president.
Yes.
So again, you've got the wife that had her lobola paid first, and then the second wife. Now, if you have the family of the first wife saying, we're going to battle over the estate, who in this case is most vulnerable between the two women? So essentially what I'm trying to say is, if you have a second wife who is now in place living with this particular man, and in the case of David Mabuza, that wife, the likelihood that she could very well lose her own estate, considering that there was a partnership between herself and the former deputy president.
Yes, this is now the first wife, Tamara's mother.
Okay, yeah.
Is that what you're asking?
I'm asking if the second wife is now more vulnerable. So you can go where you want.
I hear what you're saying. I personally, just outside of law, would say that the second wife is definitely being prejudiced. She's being prejudiced because she may or may not have known that her man paid lobola for another woman. She put herself into this relationship and built an estate, potentially shared a lot of herself to grow this 44 million pension. And here we have a woman that was lobolaed in 1999, and then the relationship ended. And now she's coming back today and saying, actually, I'm not divorced, she and her daughter. And what's interesting with Tamara's mother's claim is that she can't find the lobola letter. So now, and the other thing, which I think is very important for everyone to note, is in the article, it says that Tamara's main objection is the fact that the second wife obtained the death certificate after Didi Mabuza passed away.
Oh, wow.
So she's saying, no, that can't be valid. And I need to set that very straight. It is very much possible for people to obtain a death certificate, or a marriage certificate rather, after date of death.
Okay.
The reason for this is the Recognition of Customary Marriages Act doesn't force you to register the marriage at Home Affairs while you are living. So as a result, when people die and you now want to claim this incommutable property estate, you need to go to Home Affairs and register this. So the Home Affairs allows you to register a marriage certificate after date of death. But you see, as it turns out, that's not even the main issue. The main issue is the fact that there is no divorce order between Tamara's mother and Didi Mabuza. But again, secondary to that main issue is the fact that I don't think there's sufficient evidence to prove that Didi Mabuza paid lobola for Tamara's mother, because she's lost the lobola letter.
So let me, and perhaps I need to clarify this, but I believe the former deputy president's death certificate also, according to the record, says he was never married.
Never married, yes. That's what a death certificate of a person who is in a customary marriage but never registered it at Home Affairs will say.
Ooh.
That's why Home Affairs allows you to register the marriage after date of death.
Okay.
That then amends the marriage certificate to married.
Okay. So as we look at the situation...
Married customarily.
Got you. As we look at the situation, I mean, anyone who's watching... you know, we can go back and forth about, oh, you know, the demands that are being made here of 40,000 rand a month and all of that. But that's a,
44 million.
you know, that's the stuff that we do really for entertainment. The lessons that our viewers take home at this time, if you are in a customary marriage, the opportunities that you have at the moment to ensure that there is clarity in your estate planning, what is it that they need to be thinking about?
Look,
and even before marriage.
If we're looking at root cause analysis of this whole issue that's going on now, that's not allowing Mr. Didi Mabuza to rest in peace, basically, if you're a spiritual person, is he should have, done a last will and testament. I don't know if it's there or not, but from an estate planning perspective, because we're broadening this so everyone learns a lesson, he should have done a last will and testament. B, he should definitely have some form of trusts in place because of how large his estate is. He definitely should use living family trusts as a tool. And then the third point is, this is a pension fund fight. This is not about his estate, and that's what people need to understand. There is a difference between an estate and a pension fund payout. Your pension does not form part of your estate. Your estate is regulated by a will and determined by what you have put in your trust. Here, in the pension fund space, it is regulated in terms of Section 37C of the Pension Fund Act, which states basically there is a board of trustees that sit and determine who should get the pension fund based on the following criteria. Who is a dependent on the deceased? Who is a legal, which is the people you have the same blood as, and who is a factual dependent. Once that is determined, so Tamara is saying, I am a legal dependent because I am his child. I should be the main dependent because I'm still at school. I should be the main dependent because I'm studying and I still need to travel and do that and still grow. Right? That's what she's saying. Now, outside of determining who is legally or factually dependent on this pension, this 44 million rand pension, it then goes on to say, once you have determined who's dependent, you then decide how you're going to pay this capital lump sum. And the criteria for that is whoever, between the dependents, who is older. So the youngest gets the most. And then again, obviously, the daughter is younger than the wife. And then secondly, the means. Who has more means of taking care of themselves now that the person they were depending on has died, and who doesn't? And this is why you'll find that it's always the child that gets the largest, because the child must still go through primary, high school, and university.
Okay. Sure.
It's a lot. So, but what's important to understand is, because you can never explain law in quick, succession. But what's important to understand with the Mabuza matter is there's 2 acts here that are at play: the Recognition of Customary Marriages Act and the Pension Fund Act.
Okay.
So they have to end up in court.
Let me ask you this: so the likelihood that you think that Tamara Silinda will be successful, just as quickly as you
from
can.
the pension,
Yes.
not the estate?
Yes.
Yeah, of course she's dependent. She is a dependent of David Mabuza, who is her father. She has to be taken care of. I don't know about the demands and the specific demands, or whether she's a major dependent. I also don't know why Alexander Forbes gave the entire pension to the second wife. Technically, we have to call her the second wife, to Nisi.
Right.
I don't know why. Maybe they may have used a nomination form that David Mabuza wrote and gave it to his wife. It doesn't say that in the articles.
Yeah.
What was the reason for Alexander Forbes as the pension fund administrator to give the entire pension to this woman and then outside of his children?
I can tell you this, that right now, anyone who's watching, I'm pretty confident that there are a lot of people who are thinking, okay, I need to sit with Zola. And I need to sit with Zola and get my story straight. So perhaps give us some resources that we can use and ways to really find you and have these conversations, because they are so incredibly important.
Yeah, okay. So thanks for that, Naledi. So I'm available on social media. I also have a website, Legacy Ezibaya. But I find that people just want to ask quick questions. Then they can send me a DM, Instagram and TikTok a lot. And also, to get more detail on this recognition of customary and its transition, because there's a new Marriage Act that's coming to replace the Recognition of Customary Marriages Act, because it's so messy.
Yeah.
And that act currently is called the New Marriage Bill of 2023. And that act will say you only you can't get married in a customary marriage without registering it. It's going to fix this post-death marriage certificate. It also states whoever has been married customarily before this act comes into place has 12 months to register.
Come and register.
And should they fail to register within the 12 months, their marriage is nullified. They would have to start the lobola process from scratch.
That's not good news for some husbands.
A lot of women are planning on using that.
Zola, always a pleasure having you in studio. Thank you so much. A fun discussion, an enlightening one as well. Zola Mbata, fiduciary specialist with a senior experience in estate planning.